Welcome to the Tobago House of Assembly's Post-Executive Council Media Briefing for week ending November 24, 2012. The media is this week addressed by Chief Secretary Orville London, who begins with the Milshiv documents which have gone public.
I have learned, looking at the reports that sometimes it's better to speak about a few things and you stand a good chance of getting most of them covered rather than speak about many things. So I have maybe 3 or 4 areas which I would like to touch before I open the floor. Now, as indicated last week, the documents with respect to the bolt operation for the THA Administrative Complex of the Division of Agriculture, Marine Affairs, Marketing and the Environment have been made available to the public via the THA website. And earlier today, the Secretary of Finance would have presented a copy, as also indicated, to the Permanent Secretary to the Minister of Finance, because he had indicated that he would not be available today. And we thought that in the interest of transparency and ensuring that we keep our commitment, that we should at least ensure that it gets to the ministry. We tried this bulky document, as I indicated, that it is a document of well over 200 pages. In fact, I think it's about 244 pages, and it spans a period of over 10 years. So that is one of the reasons why we had to take our time to ensure that we put the documents together and put them together in a manner that they become readable and understandable even to somebody who might not be as accurate as they would like to be with all the issues. The document is divided into really 7 sections: an introduction, a historical perspective, because we need to put into perspective this particular situation. And among the issues that you will see dealt with in that historical perspective, an idea of the shortfall that always exists. And this has nothing to do with just one particular central government administration. There's always been a shortfall where the development funding is concerned for the Tobago House of Assembly. And then we have a series of letters, some of which are quite interesting, correspondence between the Tobago House of Assembly and the central government over the years with respect to obtaining supplementary funding and other funding. And then we talk about the origins of the bold proposal. And you will notice here that this is something that started way back in 2009. It wasn't any flash in the pan. And it is something that took a lot of negotiation and discussion over a particular period. And then you have the technical reviews of the proposal. In other words, where you have independent institutions and individuals making or giving their input and advising and, of course, ensuring that the parameters within which you operated were parameters with which all of us will be comfortable. As everything else, it needed Executive Council approval, and that document is in there. And then you had the special legal provisions. I am no lawyer, but I have been informed that these were what were necessary, and I think when you look at them carefully, you recognize that they would have covered all the bases, and there are just 1 or 2 aspects of that I would like to treat with. And then there's an appendix, and included in that appendix are the opinions of senior counsels, senior counsel coming out of Hamel-Smith and Company, senior counsel, former Attorney General, the former Attorney General, and then you also had the legal dispute between the THA and the government of Trinidad and Tobago. So we actually have senior counsel John Jeremy and senior counsel from the firm of Hamel-Smith and Company, all giving their opinion about this project. One about bolt in general, and secondly about how the Tobago House of Assembly will have treated with this particular issue. And the final document here is very interesting because it treats with the judge's ruling on one of the legal disputes between the Tobago House of Assembly and the government of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. And we went way back to the first one in 1982. And we did that to let people understand that disputes between the Tobago House of Assembly and the central government are nothing new. In fact, there have been 5 of them since the Assembly came into being in 1980. And there have always been disputes that, to a certain extent, have brought clarity to the relationship, or additional clarity to the relationship, because we were able to get the law or the judges to rule on areas of dispute. And therefore, in this case, if there's an area of dispute, and it means that we have to go to court to have it resolved, well, then I think the relationship could benefit from that. As I said, it's a lengthy document. I don't believe most people would read all of it, but I just want to draw your attention to maybe 5 or 6 areas of interest. On page 33 and 34, you have a letter, the financing of urgent THA capital projects. That letter was written by the Secretary of Finance on the 2nd of August 2002 to the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Finance. And listen to what it says in paragraph 6. We therefore propose that the THA finance a significant number of the projects identified in Annex 1 through lease cost bolt arrangement with certain national financial institutions such as NIPDEC, FinCorp, RBTT, etc., who have all expressed a keen interest in engaging in bolt arrangements with the THA. And then in 8, we said, and this is something that is quite significant, in all this, we must indicate, this is the Tobago House of Assembly writing the Ministry of Finance in 2002, that a bolt arrangement undertaken by the THA does not require the approval or concurrence of the Ministry of Finance, except that agreement should normally be reached ex ante, that budgetary allocations would be allocated ex post to service these arrangements. In other words, 10 years ago, we were signaling to the Ministry of Finance exactly what we're signaling today, that in our opinion, a bolt arrangement undertaken by the THA does not require the approval or concurrence of the Ministry of Finance. That was sent to the Ministry in August of 2002. And then I just want to, in page 54, we see again here where the Tobago House of Assembly was writing to the then Minister in the Ministry of Finance, Senator Enil, indicating to him that the First Citizens Bank was willing to establish a funding vehicle consistent with our net financing needs. In other words, the question of the Tobago House of Assembly borrowing was not in any way linked to the reluctance of the financial institutions to lend. It was simply that the ministers were not giving the necessary approval. So you can read the others. I want to also point to page 58, where you have the first correspondence, the first official correspondence from Amira Caribbean Development Limited, where they would have submitted their initial interest or proposal, or the initial proposal after some discussions. And you notice that between December the 9th and 2009, and the next correspondence was on December the 21st, 2010. Between 2009 and 2010, therefore, there was a year of discussion, because basically what the company had said, listen, we have a piece of land, we will want to lease to the Tobago House of Assembly a building which we would put down. The Tobago House of Assembly said, we don't want that. We want, when the 20 years are up, the building must belong to us. So we want to enter into a bolt arrangement. It was the Tobago House of Assembly that decided that of the 3 divisions that urgently needed accommodation, these were the Division of Community Development and Culture, the Division of Tourism and Transportation, and the Division of Agriculture, Marketing, Marine Affairs and the Environment, that the Agriculture Division is the one that they would want to associate with this project. And it was during that period, that 1-year period, as was said here in one of the, that there have been numerous meetings between the Division of Agriculture and architects to advance the plans for the proposed development. So that is where the discussions took place. And then when you turn to page 65, you will see the letter from the Valuation Division. Again, this justifies what I've been saying all the time, that the cost of the land was determined by the Valuation Division in the Ministry of Finance, not by us, not even by a Tobago-based entity. And then after they gave the proposal in 2010, that is the company, you had that proposal being submitted to project specialists, and you will see the project specialist report on page 72. As a result of that, a number of things happened. And I think that you need to read this very carefully, this project specialist report, because on page 75, you would see where the recommendation is made that it will be much more cost effective if the assembly purchases the land up front and then leases it back to the developer so that the cost of the land is not front loaded. In other words, that the assembly does not have to bear the cost and the interest of that land throughout the duration of the lease. And that proposal was not a THA proposal. It was a proposal that came from project specialists, and you would recognize that that proposal saved the Tobago House of Assembly millions of dollars. And it is nothing strange, because basically it is the same system that operates with respect to the stadium, the Dwight York Stadium and other stadia. It is the same situation that applies in relationship to the Cabildo buildings, where the Attorney General is now housed, and most of the other bold projects, that even if the government owned the land, they would lease the land back at peppercorn rent, and then, of course, be in a position that they get it back at the end of the 20 years. Because you've got to understand that any expenditure which the developer takes up, that expenditure becomes part of the cost, and you pay interest on that. And that is what we were trying to get away from. And then you have the Executive Council note. And the Executive Council minute, sorry. And then you have a press statement by project specialists on page 78. This was after all the furore. We got Mr. Peter Ford to sit in at a press conference, and this was the press release coming out of that press conference. And you will see some very interesting information here. It's all the issues are encapsulated in this press release. And this doesn't come from any of us, it comes from Mr. Peter Ford. And then on page 90, it's the Executive Council note. There is one page here, which I think we should look at. It's page 107, because that page gives you a synopsis of what this whole thing was about. If you look at page 107, you'll see three things. One, you will see what was the original proposal from the developer. You would see what the Tobago House of Assembly would have agreed upon after getting advice from the project specialists. And you would see the kind of benefits that we would have derived. And you will also see at the bottom, monthly payment fixed for 20 years, after which entire facility transferred to THA at no additional or further cost. This is the document that came to the Tobago House of Assembly, came to the Executive Council, sorry, and this is the document on which we'll have based our decision. The Executive Council, of course, is a decision-making body, and it operates based on the information that comes to it. It gives instructions, and then those instructions, of course, are supposed to be carried out by the various entities. And then you have your two opinions, 167, the Hamill-Smith opinion. Although that was in relationship to another building, all the information there. And then we have a more specific information from Senior Counsel John Jeremy, who speaks to all the major issues with respect to the agricultural building. And then, you know, just for my own interest, I mean, I read it in its entirety, and it's a fascinating judgment. It's a judgment of the in the High Court of Justice between the Tobago House of Assembly plaintiff and the Attorney General of Trinidad and Tobago defendant before the Honorable Mr. Justice K.C. Macmillan. And there were some very high-powered people there because Alan Wharton and Alan Alexander, senior counsels, and Esmeraj appeared for the Tobago House of Assembly, and Bruce Prokop, senior counsel, Michael de Labastide, senior counsel, and Ms. Christopher for the Attorney General. And it was all about the same kind of issue where there was dispute between the Tobago House of Assembly and the Attorney General with respect to the, that's on page 199, with respect to who should exercise power in Tobago. One of the things I find particularly intriguing about all of these 5 issues is that they dealt with the issues. All of these 5 cases dealt with the issues. There was no personalization. There was no persecution of individuals. It was a matter that they were striving to get justice, striving to get information. And I really hope that people understand their responsibilities to first seek for justice rather than just to seek to try to persecute people in an unjustifiable manner. And then the document, as I said, ends here, and we would have sent it on to the Ministry of Finance. And let me just say something, one final thing about that. Our communication is with the Minister of Finance, and I still am of the opinion that the Minister of Finance desires, and I also, the Tobago House of Assembly, desires a collegial relationship with the Minister of Finance. And I'm hoping that the Minister of Finance does not allow himself to be cowed by the Attorney General into doing anything that prevents us from having justice done rather than persecution. Dr. Vanos James was involved in a WIPO project, World Intellectual Property Organization project, which was partly funded by the Tobago House of Assembly. And coming out of his research, the research was widened into a study on the entire Tobago economy. And I know some aspects of the report have been made public, and you would note that some very interesting, very interesting information and data were in fact published. And one of the aspects about which we as Tobagonians should be interested, and to a certain extent it could inform, maybe even instruct our relationships in the future, is that contrary to what a lot of people believe, Tobago is in fact contributing its fair share to the national economy. And therefore Tobago's mindset should not be that of a mendicant, a beggar. Tobago's mindset should be that of a partner. And I'm saying, therefore, that it is a very important stage in the development of Tobago and the Tobagonian psyche when we understand the significance of that. That if you look at the Tobago House of Assembly Act, you'll recognize that the reasons given for Tobago to get whatever percentage it gets are reasons that are based on sympathy. We are far away from the good pole, we have been neglected for a long time, and so on. It is not about partnership. It is about, listen, we have been treated badly, we are in a disadvantaged position, therefore we should be allowed to, to play catch up or whatever. And I'm saying that the whole situation is changing, and we as Tobagonians and the Tobago House of Assembly as an institution has got to recognize that it can now sit down with the central government and negotiate as an equal partner. And there is going to come a time, maybe sooner rather than later, that the whole question of percentages would become irrelevant. And it is really going to be negotiating at various times, and it would be the circumstances that will determine the quantum rather than some set figure, which is really, as I said, not based on partnering, but based on a certain degree of patronizing. So I think that is extremely important. And it is also timely because of what is happening now in the energy sector. I want to share the excitement, maybe, of the country over the new find by BPTT, and to indicate that BPTT within the next couple of months will start its seismic surveys of the northeast coast of Tobago. BPTT was awarded 2 of the blocks at the last bid round, and they are going to start seismic studies. BPTT is one of the more aggressive companies in the world, and maybe one of the, definitely the most successful company in Tobago, and maybe I hope the luck does in fact continue and they're able to have significant gas finds. Now this continues to change further the dynamics of the relationship between Tobago and Trinidad. And it is in that context, why, for the life of me, I cannot understand why any Tobagonian who understands and must understand the dynamics and the fact that these dynamics are changing in favor of Tobago can support a situation where Tobago's maritime borders are determined by a 10-mile radius. I just do not understand it. Because once you do that, it makes the whole argument about Tobago and energy, that whole argument becomes totally irrelevant. Because all the action about which we speak is taking place outside of the 10-mile radius, but well within the 200-mile radius which the people of Tobago have in fact wanted and requested, and in fact are demanding at this point in time. And you know, we in the Tobago House of Assembly have been saying for the longest while that we will not accept anything less than what the people of Tobago have demanded, and I think we will expect that that particular issue will come back on the table. And I want to, and I think I must do this, I want to take the opportunity to debunk what statements that are made about the involvement of this administration in the whole energy thrust. And the impression is being given that this administration only discovered an interest in the energy sector within the last couple of months. Very far from the truth. I, as was said, was a member of the Energy Committee under the last administration. And it was that energy committee, or that energy committee, that the decision was made to invest $1 billion in a gas pipeline between the BHP Billiton field in Trinidad and Cove Eco-Industrial Park in Tobago. It was that committee that made the decision to set up a $300 million processing plant at Cove through our initiative. It was that committee that made the decision to set up $100 million US, a $600 million 64 megawatt dual-fired electrical power plant at Cove so that they can use diesel and natural gas. And we're now at a point where within the next couple of months, the gas, you'll get gas at Cove, processed at Cove, available for industry at Cove, available to the power plant at Cove. That's a $2 billion investment we're talking about. And also placing Tobago in a position where Tobago can lay claim maybe within the next couple of decades to be in a clean, green economy. And that is, all of that is part of the vision of this administration where natural gas and energy are concerned. In our discussion with BPTT, we are also able to put on the table our insistence on a number of things, because we have learned from our experiences in the past. One, that a level of sensitivity to our fisherfolk, and therefore they must take into consideration what is the impact of their activities on the fisherfolk. Two, training. We were able to negotiate with the National Gas Company, NGC, that Tobagonians would be trained to operate the processing plant. In fact, that processing plant is now operated mainly by Tobagonians, trained through a jointly financed program between the Tobago House of Assembly and NGC. And recently there were discussions where Tobagonians will also be trained for the maintenance. And in our discussion with BPTT, we requested that consideration must be given to training Tobagonians. We know it's not a labor-intensive exercise. Training Tobagonians with respect to whatever jobs will be available when they move from the exploration to the production phase, and also finding ways and means by which you can have Tobagonians involved in entrepreneurial activities, whether it is in providing, meals, accommodation, whatever. And they have made a commitment that those discussions will continue. So I just wanted to debunk that very false information which is being disseminated, that this administration was not significantly involved in that whole exercise with the various energy companies. And just two final things. On the 7th of December, there will be a presentation of awards and a display of art exhibits, and this is as a result of a competition which was mounted by the information unit in the Office of the Chief Secretary, and I must compliment them for that. I have been informed, I've only seen a couple of the pictures, but I've been informed that there were at least 50 high-quality contributions, that all the secondary schools in Tobago took part, and there were 12 finalists and one winner declared. The 12 finalists will be included, their works will be included in a calendar to be produced by the unit, and there will also be cash prizes awarded, $10,000 to the school that produced the first place winner. The individual will get $3,000, and there will be $1,500 to each of the 12 finalists. And then the exhibits will be displayed for a period of time during the next couple of weeks after the 7th of December. And one final point, I have to say this. I must place on record my concern, put it mildly, about the highly suspicious timing of the, delivery in full effect put on by the Ministry of the People. It is suspicious to the point of being insulting to the people of Tobago, because I don't think that any right-thinking Tobagonian cannot help but associate this with the Tobago House of Assembly election and an effort to bribe the people of Tobago. After more than 30 months in power, 2 months before an election, the Ministry of the People, and by extension the central government, decide to have a blitz in Tobago. I am certain that what they're doing is encroaching on the authority of the Tobago House of Assembly in Tobago. But I'm not going to deal with that at this point in time. I'm dealing with the signals that are being sent about what they think of us as Tobagonians. That by coming to Tobago and sharing out the goodies, that Tobagonians will reward them with their votes. I consider that insulting, and I have enough confidence in Tobagonians to believe that they are not going to be taken in like this. And I find it vexing that you should have a program on which you put down the Chief Secretary as down to give remarks when the Chief Secretary was never informed, the Chief Secretary was never invited, and the Chief Secretary knows absolutely nothing about this program. People in positions of responsibility cannot do things like that. It is wrong. Because obviously the signal that you want to send is, I invite the chief secretary and come petty. People must not do that. There must be some decency among decision makers and leaders in this society. And I'm saying that it is not only insulting the way in which they have treated Tobagonians in this issue, but it is wrong, it is irresponsible, it is disingenuous of whosoever the organizers to put the chief secretary's name on a program, knowing fully well that he will not be there because he was not invited. That is unacceptable. So I want to reiterate my faith in the people of Tobago and that they would treat this whole exercise with the contempt that it deserves.
Thank you for watching the Tobago House of Assembly's Post-Executive Council Media Briefing for week ending November 24th, 2012. For the Department of Information, I am Sophie Guillaume.